There we go. All
Hey,
right.
what's going on over there? Is that a new feature?
I think so. That wasn't me though. That was, I think that was all Stephanie there.
That's right.
How are we doing today? All right.
Doing great.
Doing great. As you can see, we are forging ahead in uncharted territory without our leader, Mr. Jim Gast. Jim's traveling today. We'll be the first to admit that Jim is blessed with the gift of gab. I think that's what it's called. I certainly, under any circumstances, do not have that gift. I'm blessed with a mumble that follows me wherever I go. But in the words of the great band Queen, back in, I think it was 91, they released the song "The Show Must Go On." So here we are. With a reboot, and thank you for checking us out today. As you may or may not know, everyone in our group owns an IT business, and we're located across the country. We work with each other in a marketing group as well. We put these broadcasts together to cover a variety of topics that many small businesses face, ranging from HR to security to sales, CRM, guidance, and of course, tech topics. We try to discuss these topics and close the show by rebooting your thought process or possibly changing your perspective on some of the challenges that you may face. Today's topic, we are going to dig a little deeper into Microsoft Outlook, which is one of, if not the most popular pieces of software in their entire catalog. But before we go into that, again, we are the Reboot. My name is Brian Bracci. I'm with B&L PC Solutions, based Long Island, New York, and I'm joined by some good friends of mine, starting with...
I am Dave Groot with WinStar Technologies in Culpeper, Virginia.
And I am Stephanie Groot with WinStar Technologies in Culpeper, Virginia.
The better half.
And Brandon Bowers with Eisner Managed Technology Services out of sunny South Florida. And I will mention, Brian, I think you did an outstanding job introing us.
Phenomenal opening.
We can't do stars or anything like that, but I think that's going to be part of our suggestion to improve this application. So
I think Jim got fired.
All right. So Microsoft Outlook. I personally, I'm the quintessential creature of habit that we've been using Outlook for, as long as I can remember. And simplicity. I've always been go here, do this, do that, and then over the years you start to hear about things that are available, and I've been told, well, that's been available for 5 years. What are you talking about? Stuff like that. So we want to kind of dig a little bit in today and look at the changes, because Microsoft is constantly evolving this platform and on so many levels, not only the desktop level, but the mobile, the iPad, and everything is with you. And that functionality, the functionality now has been brought across all these platforms. Whereas it used to be, you go on the web access, it's kind of clunky and ugly, and then you go on Outlook, it's and calendar access and all this other stuff that you can do now. It just makes it doesn't matter what you use, you can pretty much do the same thing from anywhere, from any device. So with that, who wants to kind of go in and talk about something? Yeah, Steph, you had something to say?
I was just going to say, I think that they've learned how to play well with others is the big software people has done. Used to be we couldn't do that, and now it has.
Yeah, I would definitely agree that I think it's a misconception in a lot of cases that Outlook on Android or an iPhone is not any good, and it's actually pretty stellar. Like it's a free application first off, and it works very nicely. But I got to say, I got a couple of different ones that I'll cover today if you guys don't get into them. But the biggest one that I think is kind of cool, takes a little bit of explaining, but for the first time, we're now able to make the default email handler in Windows be OWA, Outlook Web Access. Meaning, if I click a link on anything that's going to invoke a new email message, it uses my OWA instance instead of the Outlook desktop application. And the reason I think that that's important to people who have used these features in the past is because you could never use a web-based email account for the purpose of like sending an invoice out of QuickBooks or anything that you're printing programmatically. right? Like that you're emailing out programmatically. It always wanted to call on a MAPI client, which is your Outlook desktop. Now we can use the OWA, and desktop notifications are part of that, right? So new email and all those things are pops that are coming up, just like your desktop application. So for the very, very first time, Outlook Web Access and the desktop app are really identical. Nothing different about them.
Very cool.
Because you guys were mentioning mobile, and I want to talk just for a second about like the uniform experience that you now have that you didn't have in the past. So, one big thing was, hey, you got an employee that left or whatever, and your IT guys converted it to a shared mailbox. And yeah, in Outlook, you could access that mailbox. But in the past, you might have been using iOS mail app or some other mail app, and you had no way to access that. Even if you were using Outlook on a mobile phone, you had no way to access that content. And so you always had to have your computer if you wanted to look at any of those emails. Now what's really cool with Outlook Mobile, you can go to your shared mailboxes, you can go to groups, and you have full access. It's almost feature parity at this point that you can access, even to the extent that signatures can sync between your devices across the board using some of their hopefully I'm not stepping on your tails there, David, but they're like cloud syncing functionality, which
yeah, they're making the rules, and that stuff is, a lot of it's now sitting on the server, right? Where a lot of it used to be local to the client. And so you're able to sync all those things. And again, that I think still sort of ties into their ecosystem. Like the OWA thing is Edge, right? It's the Microsoft Edge, and it's because you're on a Microsoft 365 account and all of your stuff is syncing with that. There's some caveats, but certainly you're right. I like the idea too in the mobile app, Brandon, is that you can have multiple accounts, right? So like I got my business email, but I've got personal email, and I can switch seamlessly between those accounts and not intermix the mail, which is, really nice.
Well, and also you can have the top level view that some of the other mail apps you had to use those for. Now, if you do want to commingle it and have, your big set of all your mails, you have the option, or you can even go mailbox by mailbox.
And if you're using Microsoft 365 and you force company portal on a mobile device, then you can keep the business email segmented from the personal email space on the phone, which means they cannot send attachments from corporate resources through their personal email, and they cannot send personal resources through their corporate email, which is pretty big for those people who have compliance and security needs.
Brandon, I think what you mentioned is important, and maybe a lot of people don't know about it. More so now, our clients are starting to hear about it because that's what we're doing, and that's the shared mailbox that you mentioned. Can you just take a minute and just explain why we have that? Where we come from, what we used to have to do, and what are the benefits of it now? Because I think a lot of people can benefit from that.
I mean, shared mailboxes is not necessarily an Outlook thing, but they've been around for a long time. The major benefits of a shared mailbox at this point is, hey, a lot of businesses are on Office 365. You're paying for your employees' mailboxes, and as that employee leaves, instead of just removing the license and losing all access, or maybe what IT companies were doing in the past, I still see some people doing this, exporting all the emails to like a PST file, archiving that someplace, and then it's so much trouble to deal with that, right? Like, where do you put all the PSTs? How are you going to access it? How are you sharing that? Now, on the IT side, all they need to do is, hey, I'm going to convert that full mailbox to a shared mailbox, take away the licenses. Now the user no longer has access. You're no longer paying a license, so you're saving money, but you're retaining all that data. We've got some customers where actually their businesses winded down. They're much smaller than they were before. I mean, I'm talking 75, 100 users, and now they're 5. But we still have all of that old mailbox data, and they're not paying for any of that. It's just part of their existing subscription. Take away all the licenses, converted all the mailboxes, and then you can set what you want. Maybe some people should have access to it. And again, the beauty now is they can have access from mobile, they can have access from web, they can have access from the Outlook client. It really doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead,
Dave.
No, you say, Brian. Go ahead.
So a big thing that we're doing for people is we used to do a lot of distribution lists.
Yeah.
And so you'd have an email going to service at your company, and then that would go to 5 people in that list or 100 people, and then everyone's responding. No one knows what's going on. So we create shared mailboxes for that purpose. Doesn't require a license. We put all the members into that mailbox. They can all look and see and respond and have that correlation, internally without having to all
That's a
this
good
mail
point.
going all over the place.
Yeah, the way we differentiate that is if the client has a need to be able to send outbound email as that particular email address, then we recommend they go with a shared mailbox because that permission is inherited as being a member of that group. With the distributor or distribution group, generally speaking, when you're sending an email out or even replying to a message that came in, you're replying with your personal email address and not with the shared email address. So if you have a thing like sales or any of that kind of stuff, what you don't want is those replies going back to an individual person, right? You want it to come from sales so that when they reply, it still comes back into the chain where 20 people are monitoring it and it can be watched and seen. So yeah, the shared mailbox, the one caveat that you got to watch out for, I'm sorry to overload you with details, but that shared mailbox, while there is no license associated, no cost, is considered a user. And when that becomes important is when you're doing specific services that require a user-based licensing, and it's looking at your Azure AD for that licensing number. All of those shared mailboxes are considered users. So you will pay the fee for each and every one of those, even though the shared mailbox is free and there's no license, you're going to pay for that. But that's not always a reason to not do it. It's just something to be aware of.
We have a question in which is from Jim. He was asking about the mailbox. So you add a shared mailbox to somebody to have access. Does it auto add itself on the web and on the mobile? And how does that work?
The only way it adds itself is on the Outlook desktop application that shows up automatically. You have to manually add it to OA and or the mobile app.
Right. One nice thing about web, because I do have more and more customers that are driving their employees to use web. They moved from an experience where maybe they were using G Suite in the past, Google Apps, and they're just used to using web. They're used to using like the web editor for Google Drive, so they're used to using OneDrive in the web and things like that. And what I find nice about accessing a shared mailbox from the web is that you can have a whole nother window open and treat it like a mailbox that you're working in like any other. Send emails from that, as long as access has been provided. You've got a calendar, you've got everything. So yeah, it's a pretty nice feature.
Yeah. So can we go on to some other good ones?
Yeah, let's go.
One that has really kind of opened up some doors in my world. Steph, is it okay if I say this one? The one I talked to you about this morning? Okay.
Sure.
Email a copy of your calendar. Are you familiar with that?
Say that again. Email a copy of your calendar?
So there's a command that you can add to a toolbar called email copy of calendar. And when you say you want to email a copy of a calendar, the scenario is like this. You have somebody who's trying to connect with you and they're like, hey, I got some time on Tuesday, some time on Thursday, some time on Friday. And then you're going back and, well, I got time on Wednesday, but not on Tuesday. Screw all that. What's your availability? So we send our email and it can show busy or free times over the course of days that you have. It is not a booking link. It's not a clickable. It just is a read-only version. Yep. But then they can pick a time and then send you an invite, the normal way that they would, or you could tie it into a bookings link as part of your signature, right? So like if you were to put the bookings link in the signature and you shared out the email with the calendar, people could make that transition very quickly.
So
I got to tell you, that's been a lifesaver.
Yeah, I don't understand why the mobile app functionality is still not yet available in the desktop app. So I like what you're saying. That's a cool feature. What's nice about in the mobile Outlook is that you click your calendar button and you can select times that you're available, and it'll send a little bulleted list. Hey, I'm available at these dates, these times. You can select it instead of sending your full open calendar.
It's the same feature. It's the same feature. Yeah. When you send it, it can show no details, meaning just free or busy. and it can show, you could have it show just the subject of the calendar entry or full details. Again,
But can
depending
you,
on,
but you can't have it, like, it's going to show them the calendar. It's not going to just say, like, these were the times that I selected that I'm available for you, right?
You can adjust that
I was going to say,
in
do you want me to show it to you?
See, guys, this is not rehearsed at all. So this is what happens here. We teach each other. We're all
Yeah. I mean, do you
this
think
is
like
what
this
happens.
is coming off the cuff here, guys? I
That's
mean,
it.
Show us your sanitized calendar.
Yeah, you should be
I don't
careful
have
there.
one. That's about, so it doesn't matter though,
I
because
will share while he's pulling that up. The really nice thing on mobile is you have an email open. You click your calendar. It brings up your calendar. You can click in on dates or times, and then it embeds in your actual email. It says, hey, I'm available these times, and it shows a list of the times. Because I agree with you. So I don't have the ability in the position I'm in now to where we can send out a link for somebody to book, but it makes it extremely easy if you can send somebody.
Let me tell you how you do that, and that ties into Outlook. Okay, listen to this. You create a calendar for a room, right? And that calendar, you set it up to auto accept any meeting invitations. And so then anytime somebody's booking a meeting, they include that room in the invitation. It automatically accepts the invitation. So it then shows, then you publish that calendar to all of your internal organization inside of Teams or anywhere else, and they can see what's going on and what rooms are booked, and it's used for the scheduling assistant as well, right? So when you're booking out rooms. So I've got a full,
Mind blown.
I can show you how to do
David.
all that.
If you're going to ask me to figure out how to share a screen here, then we might as well just wait until how to use Restream on the next broadcast.
I got to figure out where to put this button so I can show it to you.
While he's doing that for a second, so something I found recent, well, an easy one for everybody. Everybody's going crazy over dark mode. I don't know if you guys hear this now, but like all my texts want dark mode everything. Now you can have Outlook follow your Office or your Windows settings. So you set Windows dark mode. Now Outlook's in dark mode. I know that was just released in the recent months.
Yeah, you can put Outlook in dark mode, but you can also put it in gray mode.
Yeah.
So like,
but gray mode was there for quite a while, I think.
Yeah. So this is gray mode.
Do we see? Hold on one sec. Give me a second.
Are you able to see my screen?
Yep.
Yeah.
So you're seeing the new entry?
Yep.
Okay. So if you click on the email calendar button, this is what you get. And then you can pick what calendar you're looking to pull from, right?
Okay.
And you can say a date range. You can say today, tomorrow, next 7 days, or you can go custom, right? I'm just going to say tomorrow. And then I can say availability only, limited details, or full details. And so if I say availability only, and let's say I go specific dates and I say it's tomorrow through Monday. So then it builds it out, and this is what they get in their email. And there's an ICS file that if they double click it, it'll insert it into their calendar with an overlay so they can see the different times, and then they can pick based on that.
Why don't you show them really quick? How do they create the button?
So the button is done by coming into your toolbar customization and just simply going into more commands and choosing all commands, and then going to the ease and choosing to email calendar somewhere in here. I think it's not showing because I've already moved it over.
It's already on, yeah.
Yeah, but so you just take it and you move it over to whatever toolbar you want it to be in. Does that make sense?
It does.
And then it shows up, and it's a calendar button. So you have to be in a calendar to see the button hot.
Right.
But you see, these are not necessarily like I can't click to do any kind of booking or anything.
Right. Right.
But it just lets them know what you got going on. I don't know. I think it's kind of neat.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, that's really good. Yeah.
Thank you, David.
And the other thing I think is cool is the ability to disallow forwarding of meeting requests. Are you familiar with that?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Where you can say I'm inviting you, but you can't forward the invitation to somebody else, and they can then click the link and join the meeting too.
You have that. Yep.
As you, I think that's pretty cool. cleanup folder. That's a pretty big one. So when you're in your inbox and you've got 15, people replying to the same email message and there's 16 threads, you can clean that up and it'll delete everything but the last one, inside of your inbox folder. And it's, just say clean up folder, everything goes away. It's pretty nifty.
Are we going to talk about the power of the wonderful focused inbox, or are we going to skip over that one?
Go ahead. Anybody got an opinion on that?
If you were to ask me a year ago, I would say I hate focused inbox. I was always disabling it. I think it's a godsend now. I got to be honest with you. I think it's to the level now where items that are in focused are items I want to address, and items that are in other, or what does it switch over? Yeah, to other.
Yeah.
It's usually junk mail or something that I'm ignoring.
Same train of thought as you. I've turned it off. I have not turned it back on. So maybe I should revisit that. It was one of those things where you were so used to seeing whether it was garbage or not. We just were so used to seeing everything in the inbox. And then when it was first enabled, and then you don't have anything there, you're like, oh, what is this? I got to turn this off. And that's kind of where we left it. So that's something to consider. Then if you're starting to get inundated with, before we even come into the office in the morning, we probably have, 150 emails that are just there.
That's my point. How many emails are you getting a day? You're getting inundated. You can't get, everybody's trying to get to zero, right?
Yeah.
You see your inbox and you see that number huge, you're like dying.
I'm going to say right now, and I literally have 202,000 emails in my inbox, and 21,784 of them are unread. Now
you're sick. You're a sick man.
Yeah.
So you're all set for an email migration over to AOL?
Absolutely. The key is, though, I know, that we all know those emails that come in. You see them, you know what they are. They don't necessarily have to be opened. You know what they are. But changing gears here, I have a simple one because I'm a simple man. I'm clicking on a new email, hit that new button, right? That's how you would generate an email. You want to do a calendar entry, you go into your calendar, you hit new, we want to do a new contact, you do the same thing. There's a little button called new items next to new email now. Mm-hmm. And all you do is you click on that button, and from there you can do a new email message, a new appointment, a new meeting, a new task, a Teams meeting right from there, which I think is a great tip that people may not know about. And it just helps you move along that much quicker to get, rather than having to skip around and go to different places. Right from that one button, you can do pretty much any task that you want to do in Outlook in one location.
So on that same note, two things, little things, right? Nothing revelational, but the task or to-do bar, just when you click on that, it'll open up on a right pane. You can see your calendar and your to-do list, so that you're looking at your emails, but you have your calendar and stuff like right there handy. And then you don't have to be flipping back and forth between the two to do things. But on top of that, if you're into Teams and you're into Microsoft and you're into the planner and the to-do list, all of those things can then become to-do tasks inside of your Outlook. And therefore you're kind of, using that whole Microsoft ecosystem. And Brian, I know you're way heavy into planner on Teams.
Yep.
So all that stuff can be pushed right into their Outlook calendars, if that's where they live, right? Like some folks that I work out of Outlook, like that. That's it. Yeah.
And the brand new features coming into Outlook actually have Planner integrated right in as a button. So that's where Microsoft's going with it.
Insights is a pretty cool button. I don't know if you've looked at that before, but it takes you in and you can set up focus time. You can schedule time that you're going to be, just focusing on particular projects, or you can look and see what your workflow is, what you've been spending a lot of time on for your better health.
I think the good thing to talk about Insights is that some people don't know they set focused time and then always show busy during certain times of the day. So I think the know there is just to be aware that Insights is there, and it may be setting or recommending focus time for you, and to be careful when you click that, it will potentially block off time to where now you show as unavailable. I've had a number of people where they did that and they had no idea what was going on.
Do you guys know about the defer delivery?
That's on my list, but that's
not new.
No, I know, but it's a pretty cool tip. I mean,
it's absolutely.
Save yourself. Don't when you press send, it doesn't go.
So is that unless I'm thinking of something else, but is that where you're telling an email when to go out.
So you can set up a rule. Yeah, I mean, that is one way, but you can just say, hey, any email I ever send, don't send for 1 minute or 2 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever your timer is, and it just sits in the inbox for that length of time, so that you can change your mind and say, I don't want to delete, I don't want that to get sent, and now I delete it out of the outbox.
Can you have it to say, whenever I'm at happy hour, do not send any emails out?
Yeah, some along those lines. Yeah, that'd be nice.
And
do you guys know?
Is that what I'm thinking of? Is like, I know people that may send stuff out on a Friday, but the train of thought is, you know what, that shouldn't get to that recipient until Monday morning.
Yeah,
but I have it. You know, that's the same thing.
That's a scheduled send, but that's the same kind of concept.
Similar
this
feature.
is just universal. Like you would set up a rule for every email, or every email to a particular address, or whatever you wanted it to be.
And David was talking about to use it to prevent accidents. You know, one thing that people would always bring up to me is, hey, I replied all mistakenly and send this email out to this large group of people. And we would always in the past look for like scripts that would notify them when they're sending an email. And it's like, hey, are you sure you want to send this before you send it? Things like that. There's now some pretty cool mail tips built into Outlook. A lot of them are disabled by default, which I cannot understand why, because I think they're all very beneficial. You can have mail tips that show when you're sending, just like an external recipient was added to the email, and it'll show a little thing at the top, you're sending to external parties, just so you're aware. If you're sending to a large group of people, it'll give you a little tip and let you know, so that you have that like additional check that may be happening. And I mean, just for people to be aware, you just go into file options and then mail tips and look at some of the informational ones in there. I think, I mean, I've got them all turned on at this point because I feel like they're all very useful.
And I think administratively, you can do this on the back end as well. So we've done it for some clients. We've enabled mail tips globally for them, like you're saying, Brandon. You know, anytime they're sending something outside the organization, put this mail tip on, so you can control that globally too.
From an admin standpoint, some of the cool mail tips are like, hey, this is the first time somebody's contacted you from this email. Do you know this person? Or, you know, you haven't communicated with them frequently. You know, do you recognize them? I mean, from a security standpoint, there's some pretty cool mail tips you can add in.
Is that the same stuff of, hey, you said you were attaching a file, but there's not an attachment on this email? Do you still want to send?
Or there's no subject, right? There's no subject you want to send.
And those are default on, which I still don't understand why like the large group and sending external and stuff aren't on by default, because why would you want to have those
keeping in mind, Microsoft recently changed their default outbound spam rule. You can't forward to an external sender unless you really take some steps to override it all.
Yep.
So it's you're doing it on purpose if you're doing it. The one other thing too that I thought was kind of cool when I was looking up stuff, the at mention. So, like if you type in the body of an email
in all apps.
Oh, okay. Well, that I didn't know, but it puts their address in the to line, right? So, like I have a group email, you know, for our accountability group, and I could just say at and put in that name, and then all of your guys' email addresses go into the to line, and then I just click send. It's kind of cool. I mean, I don't do a lot of the social aspect stuff, so I guess that's not such a big deal, but it was kind of nifty, I thought.
Good to know.
I know we're running out of time too, guys, just for us to be cognizant.
I think we had some great tips here. Anyone have any last minute ones or anything that you want to close with?
Have you seen the Teams button in the top right of the email preview pane?
Which one is that?
The Teams button in the top right of the email preview pane.
And what does that do for us?
I think he wants to. You can share email to a Teams group, or you can share a message from Teams to an email.
Yep.
So he's basically saying when you click the three dots up in the top right where it says reply all, forward, and then there's three dots. Another one is send to Teams, and then you can share it to a particular group or channel in Teams. The other side of it is you can go to a message that's posted in Teams, and you can click share to Outlook on the three dots for that message, and it'll bring it into an Outlook email, and you can pop it out. And then one other cool thing that we use in our business and our supporting of people all the time is the screenshot feature. So if you have a new email message and you open it up, new email, you go to insert, you'll see a button called screenshot, and it'll ask you what window you want to grab that screenshot from.
That's pretty cool. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, by default, it'll pull up the last active window if you don't choose a window.
That's cool. Very cool. All right, listen, I don't want to get yelled at for using too much time on when Jim's not running it and just say that I sabotaged the meeting here. So I think we did pretty good with this one, and some great topics. I think we all learned something, and I don't know what our next topic is, but we're going to thank you guys, and we'll talk to you all next week.
All
Thanks,
right.
guys.
Thanks, guys.